Fort Worth Missing Trio: Rochelle Trelicia, Renee Wilson, Julie Ann Mosley. Date: December 23rd, 1974. Duration: missing for 50 years, 5 months, and 16 days. Location: Seminary South Shopping Center, Fort Worth, Texas. Disappearance: the oldest of the girls, Mary Rachel Trelisa Arnold, known to go by her middle name of Rachel, was age 17 at the time of her disappearance. She is a white female who, at the time, was 5 feet 6 inches in height, 108 pounds, with long brown hair, green eyes, and chipped upper front tooth, and a small scar on her chin. She was a married high school student at Southwest High School in Fort Worth and drove a 1972 Oldsmobile 98. The car the girls took to the mall on that day of the disappearance. At the time she vanished, Rachel had been married to her husband Tommy Trolicia for about 6 months and wore a wedding ring. Lisa Renee Wilson was a 14-year-old ninth grader at the time of her disappearance. She is known to go by her middle name of Renee. She is a fair skinned white female who at the time was 5 feet 2 inches in height, 110 pounds, with light, heavy brown hair, brown eyes, scar on the inside of one of her thighs. Clothing she was known to be wearing when she disappeared includes bluish purple hip hugger pants, a white pullover sweatshirt with sweet honey in green letters. She have reported it as a pale yellow t-shirt with green letters, red and white Oxford shoes, and a promise ring with a single clear stone. The youngest of the girls, Julie Ann Mosley, was age 9 at the time of her disappearance. She is a white female who at the time was 4 feet 3 inches in height, 85 pounds, with shorter length, sandy blonde hair and blue eyes. She has a small scar under her left eye, a scar in the middle of her forehead, and a scar on the back of her calf. Clothing she was known to be wearing when she disappeared include a red shirt with dark jeans and red tennis shoes. On the morning of December 23rd, 1974, a little before noon, Rachel Trelicia, Renee Wilson, and Julie Ann Mosley set out to a Christmas shopping. Julie asked to tag along at the last minute because she didn't want to spend the day alone. On being told that she would need to get permission to go, Julie ran inside her home and asked her mother, Rayanne Mosley, if she could tag along. Julie would later, Rianne would later recall, I was working for an electrical contractor and my husband and I were separated. It was a bitter, bitter time. I remember that Julie called and wanted to go to Seminary South. I said, no, you don't have any money. You just stay home. I knew Renee and her mother, but I really didn't know Rachel. But Julie kept whining about how she wouldn't have anybody to play with. I finally gave in, but I told her to be home by 6. The older girls, especially Renee, wanted to be back by 4 o'clock p.m. because Renee had a Christmas party she wanted to attend with her new boyfriend, who had given her a promise ring that morning, and she wanted plenty of time to get ready. The girls first headed to a surplus store in Fort Worth to pick up some layaway items that Renee had waiting. From there, they headed to a Seminary South shopping center. Several witnesses have reported seeing the girls in the mall that day. When the girls did not return home, their parents became concerned and traveled to Seminary South to search for them. They arrived around 6 p.m. that evening to find their car parked in the Sears upper level parking lot. It appeared the girls had made it back to the car that afternoon, as the gifts they had purchased were found in the car. The family stayed at the mall all night, waiting for the girls to return. When the girls failed to return, The police were called and the case was quickly handed to the Youth Division of the Fort Worth Police Department Missing Persons Bureau. The girls were presumed to be runaways by investigators. The next day, Tommy Trelucia, Rachel's husband, received a letter that appeared to have been written by her. It read, I know I'm going to catch it, but we had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in Sears Upper Lot. Love, Rachel. While the address envelope was written in pencil, the letter itself was written in ink and on a sheet of paper that was wider than the envelope. It was addressed Thomas A. Tricia instead of the less formal Tommy, as Rachel normally called him. Rachel was writing in the upper left hand corner of the envelope. It appeared to be initially misspelled as the L in her name was written as a lowercase e, but then it had been gone over again to form the correct L. The postmark did not contain a city, only a blurred zip code that appeared to be 76083. The number 3 appeared to be backward as though it was applied by a hand-loaded stamp or a partial 8. It is assumed that the zip code was meant to be either 76038, which comes from Elisaville, Texas, or 76088, which comes from Weatherford, Texas. In subsequent decades, handwriting experts across the nation, including from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, have yielded inconclusive results as to the legitimacy of the letter. Despite receiving the letter, the girls' families did not believe that it was written by Rachel, nor the girls had run away. Julie M. Mosley's mother, Rayanne, stated, I know my daughter and I know the other girls, and they are not runaways. Judy Wilson, Renee's mother, stated, I could have told you that night that they didn't run away. Renee wanted to go to that party, and no 9-year old is going to run off 2 days before Christmas. Everybody knows that. Frances Langston, Rachel's mother, believed the girls had been abducted, saying a lot of people may think they left with someone they knew, but I always think until the day I die that the girls were taken. Not willingly to give in, the families continued their search by disturbing missing person filters throughout the state and contracting newspapers across the country. Eventually, tips began to come in and witnesses began to come forward. In early 1975, the young man claiming to an acquaintance of Rachel stepped forward and claimed that he saw the three girls in the recording department of the store, including them all that they had disappeared. Apparently, he and Rachel saw each other and spoke briefly. The man claimed that another person appeared to be with the girls during the same time. Some women's clothes were found in Justin, Texas, but it just determined that they did not belong to the girls. Frustrated with the police investigation, the family decided to hire a private detective named John Swam. In August 1975, Swam discovered that a 28-year-old man who had worked for a local store where Rachel had applied for a job before her disappearance was making a string of obscene phone calls in the area. It was discovered that the man was using his position to obtain information from young women who had either submitted job applications or been listed as references. 6 female job applicants have been receiving obscene phone calls. The man also once lived in the neighborhood of Rachel's parents, but moved away shortly before Rachel married. In the end, nothing came of the investigation into the suspect. In April 1975, Swam went to Port Lavoca, Texas, with 100 volunteers to search under local bridges after receiving a tip that the girls had been killed or taken there. However, no trace of the girls were found. A year later, 3 skeletons were found in a field in Barsora County by an oil drilling crew. Swam had the bones compared to x rays and dental records of the girls, where it turned out the bones belonged to a teenage boy about 15 to 17 years of age and 2 other females who were not identified as being any of the girls. In March 1976, a psych called one of the families and told them that the girls could be found near an oil well. For reasons that are unclear, the search focused on a small community of Rising Star, Texas, but nothing was ever found. In 1979, Swim died following a drug overdose. His death was ruled to be a suicide. Upon his death, he ordered that all of his files on the case be destroyed. In the spring of 1981, police investigators were called to a location of Barzora County after human remains have been found in a swampy area. After a month of investigation, they discovered that the bones did not belong to the three girls. In January 2001, the case was reopened and assigned to a homicide detective, Tom Butcher, who believed the girls left the mall with someone they trusted. We could say that they were at one point seen with one individual, but we believe there was more than one involved. In 2018, two cars were raised from Benbrook Lake because they were thought to have a connection to the case. These efforts, however, yield no results. Over the years, investigators have continued to comb through Texas and have explored hundreds of back roads. The families have walked creek beds and country roads, coming up with nothing every time. Decades after the disappearance, there have been no reports of new developments in the case. A store clerk came forward around the time the girls disappeared and said that a woman told her that she had seen the girls at a mall that day. The woman reported that she saw three girls being forced into a yellow pickup truck near Buddy's grocery store at the mall. The truck was described as having lights on top of it. This witness could never be located by police. The story was never verified. In 1981, years after the disappearance, a man said he had been in the parking lot that day and had seen a man forcing a girl into a van. The man in the van told him it was a family dispute and to stay out of it. In April 2001, Bill Hutchins, a former Fort Worth police officer and security guard at the seminary's South Sears outlet, said that he saw the girls with a security guard on the night they disappeared.